cannot hear my thing? Okay. I thought I had a strong voice. You can hear me now? Okay, thank you. And so chiefs are well entrenched in the Constitution in a number of legislations. I've just shown two slides of legislation that pertain to acknowledging the role of chiefs, albeit limited or circumscribed in certain ways, as you might know. In 2010, a study was done to actually reduce the number of kings, and on the right, those are the kings that we now have. Those ones were phased out, and currently the stats might have changed, but currently we're talking of so many chiefs, 8,241 chiefs, as well as headmen in the country. Remember, they are of different character, different hierarchy, making, form, and so on and so forth. So we must not generalize in terms of who they are. So what we talk about these days is that there is an insurgency of chiefs, not just in South Africa, but all around the continent. Chiefs have come back a big way. And this is very significant because we are seeing chiefs not just now featuring in rural areas, but also in urban areas. In 2017, 2 chiefs from Gwamhlanga along the Moloto Road, those from Pretoria, Moloto Road, you've heard of the notorious Moloto corridor? 2 chiefs in that area have been included in the Gauteng legislature, and a lot more are actually applying to be part of the legislature. There you are. And the Moloto Road, amongst others, you can mention Bushbuck Ridge, you can mention many other areas, especially in KwaZulu-Natal and Limpopo, where there is rapid urban growth. And this rapid urban growth is occurring in peri-urban areas or in rural areas under the authority of chiefs. And much of urban growth in the continent is occurring in areas that are actually under the authority of chiefs. And this is the reason why we talk of the insurgency of chiefs, but also rapid urban growth that's occurring. And this is somewhat leaving us with a bifurcated state, Shula Max noted as well as Mamdani, a bifurcated state where you have the modern state on the one hand, as well as the customary state on the other. But we haven't really dealt with the perennial challenge of dealing with how the two institutions can work with each other without causing problems. And I think that's the reason why some of the chiefs have boycotted Splum, isn't it? I did not say that. Okay, but that's what we're all about. Can we engage constructively and see how we actually come up with solutions around this? So whilst these developments are occurring, insurgency of chiefs, rapid urban growth, the slate, the layer of the apartheid legacy is still there. There's still a core periphery kind of spatial economy. Nevertheless, there is transformation in space as well as institutions. You will see that the kind of a space economy we preside over has got age gaps. You know, the youth and the middle-aged are in town. The children and the aged are at home. There is that gap. There is gender imbalance. There is youth absenteeism in rural areas. In fact, if you go to many rural areas, I give you this as an assignment, even when you're driving along N1, N3, and so on and so forth, in rural areas, you will see that those fields that used to be planted and reared, amapontshisi and maize, many of them are now fallow and there are trees now. And that tells you about the transformation that has actually occurred, that much of people, even in rural areas, are finding livelihoods in urban environments rather than in rural areas, notwithstanding the peri-urban growth, which is being pushed by the high land rates and cost of living in urban areas. So we need to take note of that. Also, what has affected institutions, particularly the institutions of chiefs, is that the traditional roles that used to be provided for by the youth, by ordinary people, are no longer there. People choose just to pay in absentia to say, "Oh, you want 40 rands? I'm sorry, I'm actually in a excuse me, in a set plan in Indaba in Pretoria. I cannot attend to the field of the chief," right? Some of you don't even know what I'm talking about. What the heck is that? Okay. If I was talking about Nintendo or something, you Danone. Okay. But what I'm saying is that those traditional roles that used to be performed by regiments have actually died out. The youth and people currently prefer to pay instead of attending to those things. And what happens then is that the chiefs get motivated to say, "Okay, I don't mind if you go to a set plan in Indaba, but as long as you pay and pay more, they keep on increasing the fees." I'm aware of chiefs where you pay for, especially if you want a bursary, you pay for the stamp. You want an ID, you pay for the stamp. You want, it's the beginning of the plowing season, you pay for starting to plow. You pay when it's raining and the grass grows at the chief's yard. You pay, you just pay about 12, at some point I counted 12, levies that are actually imposed in rural areas. There is a beautiful kingdom in this eastern part of this country. 2021, 2022, there were protests. Anybody knows that kingdom? Anybody? Just shout. Do you know that kingdom? Planners don't know the map of Southern Africa. Eswatini, yeah, right? And this was one of the crucial issues that people didn't mind how many wives the king had. Could take 13, 14, as long as they had control of their land. But the moment they felt that now they had to pay so much, they were saying, "So what now? What should we do?" I almost uttered another French word. What should we do now? So that's the reason why there were riots, amongst others. Of course, there's been a long history there. And so chiefs have been motivated to actually rely on commercial systems of support, and land has become the primary object of commerce, and that has given rise to what we call neo-customary practices on land. Neo-customary means that the custom still remains, but it has shifted now because it's affected by commodification of land, of signatures, of stamps, and so on and so forth. And so chieftaincy is no longer the one we used to know in the past, but it has actually changed. Just in terms of land is not supposed to be sold under chiefs, but land is now sold, leased, given under certain terms, subdivided. There is indeed a quiet paradigm shift transforming relations of production through the privatization of rights, commoditization, deregulation. Jehobu speaks of a new African customary tenure, where a new set of occupancy rights, eviction rights, and family and group rights, are recognized or evident under chiefs, which wasn't the case before. I just want to say something, and please remember this. what I'm describing here is not happening perhaps in your chiefdom, but what I'm describing here is the general trend that we are seeing in the continent. But chiefs and chieftaincies are very, very different and diverse. So please bear that in mind. So I spoke of neo-customary tenure. There are conflicts under kingdoms. Again, it varies from place to place. In some situations, you find that women, I know certainly in my particular research, widows, young people, people with weak kinship, and urbanites have suffered for various reasons I could explain further if there was time. The issue of age, death, memory, kinship affects your access to land if you are in rural areas. And in some cases, there are just perpetual fights for the position of a chief itself or induna. In some cases, it's artificial, someone is acting, it's moribund, or it's just dead. People are no longer recognizing any kind of chieftaincy at all. Certainly in the kingdom I was talking about in recent years, some people have just told chiefs, please don't move, just sit there, just sit there. Something like that. But we're also then experiencing displaced urbanization, displaced urbanism. If you see the GCRO research work, you can read more about this. Displaced urbanism, that's the apartheid form of space where people were displaced into other areas. But displaced urbanism, it's the kind of economic activities that are occurring in places where they're not been planned for. They are just emerging randomly ad hoc precisely because of certain forces that are coming either from urban areas or even within. So it's displaced urbanism, and we're seeing growth centers, niche markets, tourist lodges, long distance travelers are served by these. We are seeing complexes, malls, tourist facilities, small complexes, and so on and so forth. All of this is part of the displaced urbanism I'm talking about. There are flows, exchanges, shifts, webs, linkages between the urban and the rural, affecting chiefs. And we are seeing the strong influence of the rural-urban continuum, but also what is called extended urbanization, the extension of links between the urban and the far-flung areas that are actually in peri-urban as well as rural areas. And so there is dispersed human settlements that we're witnessing. There's urban sprawl, peri-urbanization. There is migratory employment. If you go to Moloto Road, you will see that those buses are driving long distances every morning, or people are moving every end of the week, something like that. I'm almost done. Last slide. I'm going to say amen when I finish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just look at me. I'll be sitting there.
Okay. So there is migratory employment, also migratory city. I think you will agree with me that during Good Friday, during the December holidays, you can just drive with a breeze on the Johannesburg-Pretoria corridor, isn't it? Because all of us, we've gone home to Bulali. We migrate home to celebrate and the poor goats and chicken. I don't want to be a chicken. You just have a bad life when you're a chicken. Okay, but then this has got social consequences, fragmented families, poor social cohesion, and perpetual poverty for most of those people that are actually traveling or living between areas. And then we are talking of Spluma, Section 12, saying, hey, you have to plan. You know, is it wall-to-wall township establishment? How do you do this in the midst of all this And so we find that technical plans or plans that we're producing, they are not necessarily moving settlements and development in the same direction. And still we have to deal with issues of land reform, gender equity, 4IR, the habitat agenda, and so on and so forth. It's really a challenge. I just thought I should mention those things just to stimulate you and perhaps put you in perspective as we engage with the issue of land planning and traditional authorities. Amen. Thank you, everybody. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's okay. You see, that's the problem of having professors the first person to speak, because then they will give you the whole lecture and the whole curriculum. Now I want to decode the whole curriculum in less than 30 minutes. But thank you very much, Professor Fana. I think your presentation was really indeed insightful. Very few people are talking about these issues. Do you know that? And I know your inaugural lecture, you were also touching on some of these issues. So thank you so much for helping all of us. Okay, so I don't want to waste more time. We have our DDG here from the department, and I think we can just jump into that presentation. Then after that, I will then invite questions. Is that okay? So I want to take these two presentations, then after that, we'll then invite questions. So if you have questions, please keep them to yourself for now. For the professor, because he started, make sure that you get the hardest ones. If you want some, you can consult with me. But thank you so much. DDG, over to you. The platform is yours.
I'm all good.
You're fine?
I'm fine. This one, just leave it here.
Oh, okay.
Before I get told, I must speak or stand closer to the mic. All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development in this, our 7th administration. I want to firstly thank the chairperson of SACPLAN, Prof. Fana, thank you for inviting me to do the keynote address to the deputy chairs. I don't see the other chairperson. Prof. Hope, thank you in your and also thank you for doing the director or master of ceremonies, as they would say. It's always. I also will go on for a bit of time as I get inspired by all the profs around me. So let's go for this. All right, so let's start. To the chairperson of SACPLAN, all the members of council, to the senior manager of the department and other departments, welcome today to the young planners, the town planning professionals. It's good to have you all here, and you must please feel free to enjoy the new space that we have. It's something to behold. It took about 2 years to construct, and I don't know if the security briefing was done, but basically I'm going to do this because otherwise we'll be in contravention of everything. The bathrooms are outside in the main foyer. There's an assembly point. If there's an alarm that will go off, it'll be on the grassy area in front of the big white building. Okay, so now you all know where to go. I think it's an honor to present here to this first National Planning Indaba for young planners, and the looking at the awards that will be given today. We're going to celebrate the planning excellence and inspire our young planners, and we want to look at how they will shape our future and the communities that we work in towns, in our urban and our rural environments. And I think, Prof, you really expressed exactly my sentiments. It's like we're like brothers from another mother here, you know. I've been pushing this work for nearly 2 years now in the department, and I'm happy to talk on Spluma and land specifically. The role of planners is becoming more and more critical in our country. We're faced with rapid urbanization, climate change, increasing social inequalities, but our commitment to sustainable and inclusive planning remains steadfast. And we have, if you have opportunity, go and look at the displays outside, and you should already, maybe by show of hands, who has heard of the National Spatial Development Framework 2050? Who's heard of it? 1, 2, 3. All right. At least half the planners in the room have. My concern is the other half. To those that haven't, this is the plan that government has set in the 6th administration for the country for 2050. So as we move to this area, do you know about National Spatial Action Areas? Do you know about the implementation program? Do you know how the future of South Africa will be influenced by climate change, desertification, the places we think that the mainly youthful population by 2050 will live, the job centers, the water constraints that we have. If you don't know about these things, then you're living for today. And you need to start thinking about 2050. If I'm lucky, I'll still be around through technological miracles, right? I believe in it. But the reality is that the work we do today affects our future. And I say to my staff every day is that if you aren't, this is your time to plan for the future. This is the only time you have. You can't think about what you didn't do yesterday. You can only think about the future. So when we do things in the department, we're thinking about how do we build a better country, how do we build a better continent, and how do we build a better world. And I just want to go through, I mean, I've got like lots of notes here, and I can share it with everyone. But we obviously, in the department, we want to look at sustainable urban development, right? And that includes the rural spaces. We want to look at inclusive planning. We want to look at technology integration. We want to look at policy and advocacy, and we want to look at education and training. If we don't look after these key areas, we again fall behind, and we stop making an impact. So I'm going to just look at the whole idea of urban development. I think most of us, when we studied planning, I studied at UP, and I did town and regional planning. Some people did urban planning and their various degrees. But at the end of the day, you will, as a young planner, find work within a town planning space, either in the private sector or in national government or with an international organization. And I think there's key things you need to know. Understand the Constitution. Understand the National Development Plan, which is nearing its 2030 mark. Look at what the NSDF says. Look at what Spluma says. Look at what the Planning Professions Act says. Because all these things shape your world that you will be working in these various spaces. Don't get confused by taking international best practices and just trying to implement them in Africa. They don't work. If you want to confuse local municipalities, go and take something that's developed and designed for use in America and implement it in a local municipality. Soon you have a local municipality that doesn't know how the MFMA functions anymore because they've got another type of procurement process. So the confusion that's created is created by not adopting what's relevant to your country. What Prof was saying is as we look at the continent and we looked at agenda, the AU Agenda 2063, it becomes important to understand what our neighbors are doing, where they will be living, how the free trade agreements will work across the continent, but also to understand that 70% of the continent is still under traditional rule. 70%. When you look at our oceans, the seaboard of Africa is 30,000 kilometers. The circumference of the Earth is 40,000 kilometers, right? On that seaboard, we've got 38 countries that have access to the sea out of the 54. Do you know that only 15 of those countries belong to the IOH, International Hydrographic Organization? What about the others? What are they doing about their marine resources, their green economies? Where are these things? What's happening in South Africa? Do you know how long? There's a quiz later on. You better get ChatGPT out. But how long is the South African coastline, right? How are we integrating the land, the coastal, and the marine? And so this is the type of things that we want to be looking at in the department. It's about understanding the space that we live in. Do we know that we don't have any response capability? We probably have one of the biggest marine areas in the world. But if a ship's in trouble near the South Pole, how do we get there? Do we have the equipment to get and assist in those things? So we're going to have to start looking at capacity building, technological advancements. But we must never forget why we do this. We do this for our communities. And my chairperson of the UN GGIM Africa, Miss Mimi, put up your hand. She's not a planner. I don't even know why she's here. But believe me, if you want to know somebody that knows spatial information and the usefulness of data, right, then Mimi is that person. She represents us as the chairperson, the first woman chair of the UN GGIM Africa, and she makes sure that all these data sets, they all talk to each other, that we use for planning. She makes sure that we are part of the international environment globally. She participates in climate change. She participates in the futures of geospatial. She participates in a whole number of bodies, including the important one is we always need funds for everything. So together, we look at an environment where we look at spatial planning, spatial data infrastructure, and the planning profession. And those three things create a very nice holistic whole for us to get our work done. Just some key initiatives that we currently are working on, maybe that would be of use, is obviously we're looking at the amendment of SPLUMA. The consultations are underway. Again, there's the consultations, and Abina's here, Shanae's here, Ashley's here, Rajesh is in Canada. He's representing us at the OGC this week, where we are, the OGC is the Open Consortium for Geospatial Information, and they set the data standards. And Rajesh is also a member of the Committee on Spatial Information. He's well known to the council because he's also been a past member of the council. But and that's where I want to leave for the young planners, is Mimi's here. She's a GIS and a spatial data expert. Rajesh is a town planner. He was the driver behind the NSDF. He kept all these government departments together. And we have as planners, you can really go anywhere, right? You do not have to get stuck in pure planning. It's important, right, to be localized, on the ground, do zoning, subdivisions, the stuff that planners do, right? But there's a bigger world out there, right, on organizing and managing other people. And that's the one skill that you have as planners, is you have the ability to understand the planning process, to understand critical paths, to understand the gates that you need to pass. You also have the skills to bring multi-disciplinary people to the table and develop a plan and generate that plan. As a young planner, I did in the private sector, well, what's the name of the place now? Anyway, it's here in the northwest. I'll think of it just now. I'll tell you before I end. And I mean, that was my first planning project that I did. I had to take coloring in pencils and formalize an informal settlement, draw the line straight, put the water in, work with an engineer to look at the slope analysis, etc., etc. And that's all great work. But these days, it happens this fast. This fast. That plan could have taken me 6 months, right? If I ask you for that plan today, I'd give you 2 days. 2 days is what you've got to finish that same plan. And it's possible. But you need to adapt. You need to go and start looking at machine learning models. You need to look at AI. If you get left behind in these spaces, you'll be left behind forever. Just a township layout. You draw the lines. You say, I want a school of so big. I want a park of this size. And that thing starts to create the layout for you within seconds, minutes. So the question is, how do you as young planners step up your game to stay relevant, to stay in the game? I can say this, how many land surveyors do we have in the room? 1, 2. Okay, great. Guys, you also have to step up. The cadastre, the plans that we do, the general plans, they're all approved by yourselves. They are geodetically correct, right? But that's only one part of the puzzle. And how quickly can you do it? We talked to Prof, the chiefs, the outer boundaries, the inner boundaries. We're following the same program. We're calling it our land plan program. I keep every month adding to it. Now it's the holistic land planning program. I think Alawani is going to have a nightmare in some of my directors here. But the reality is, sometimes you think you're very original in your thoughts, but you aren't. The Surveyor General of India, they're mapping 660,000 villages, right? They already got to 200,000. And how are they doing this? Drones. And they are giving diagrams. And how do they do it? They take some lime, they agree on the boundaries, they fly it, they draw it, they register it, title deeds for people. We're going to follow the same process in the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development. We're working with the National House of Traditional and Khoisan leaders, and we have 10, and I'm inviting any of the academic institutions that are here today to join up with the provincial teams and write up these stories, if you like. The project's being done in-house. Dani, put up your hand. He's here. Tuki, put up your hand. Kensani, council members. What else is here? Anyway, so they have, and yeah, Zodwa also. Yeah, I can see that the ladies, they attend Heritage Day with me, so it's just the director that's not here. And internally, we're going to be doing the land planning program. We're working with the National House, we're doing consultations with them, and we're going to sit under the tree. We're going to roll out the history in aerial photography. We're going to discuss what's happened, what's changed in this space. You were 5 people, you're now 200 people. You had lands here, where have they gone? They've eroded. Let's look at the land. We're going to fly with our own drones. We've got drones. By the end of the month, I'll have 50 pilots. I'll have equal number of drones. And the imagery that we're getting is far superior to anything that we've seen in the country for a long time. We'll probably leave each rural area with their own digital twin when we're done. because we have the technology. I'll show you. I'm going to do it anyway. And so we are going to push and drive the innovation. But we're not going to let this... No, don't worry. We're at 887 traditional areas in the country. You saw the number, and we've got that on a GIS system. I can share it with everyone. Add the number of chiefs that we have, right? Look at the spaces. So why are we doing this, Prof? Currently, the Minister of Agriculture, not the current minister, we have an acting minister. We now also have, proudly, born from this space, is the Speaker. Honourable Didiza is now the Speaker. But working with the Minister in the sixth administration, we realised that the land out there is still under her custodianship, 30 years into a democratic South Africa. When a chief or a traditional authority wants to develop on that land, they need to come to the minister. They need to get permissions. Then only does it happen. How about we turn this on its head, right? And that process can take you 4 years to get a permission to build a beautiful mall, a beautiful road, whatever. How about we turn this on its head and we use Spluma? We work with the traditional councils. Through my directors, they will be the planners they are meant to be. They will make sure the SG is there. They will make sure SALGA is there. They will make sure that academic institutions are there, the municipalities. We will plan with the chief until we get a plan that's acceptable to everyone with the chief. Then we will include that plan through the normal SDF process and have it adopted wall to wall. Once the chief has agreed, right, and we will amend Spluma to make sure that chiefs, where the interest of their decisions are on their properties, they will be part of the municipal planning tribunals, right? We're going to do this. Once that's done, we will then be able to take that plan, which is a local plan, as mandated by the Constitution, and we will take it to the minister, and we'll say, Minister, you don't need to give full ownership, but here's a development plan for the chief's area. This is where the chief has indicated the properties that we've used the Surveyor General to give an informal right to, right? We've marked it. We'll say, allow, because now you've done due diligence, Minister, allow these chiefs to develop at their own pace and rate in these spaces. If you keep to the plan, Chief, right, then there's no problem. And then we don't have to go through long processes because the communal land bill is coming, right? It will be discussed. It will be workshopped, what the outcomes are. But the work that the SPLUM directors, town planners, GIS professionals are doing in those provinces today will shape the future of the country moving forward around traditional leadership. And we will continue to finish with the National House of Traditional and Khoisan leaders and the provincial houses and the local chiefs those plans. And when they are ready, we will work with SACPlan, the academic institutions, and we will build the model that we all accept. And then we will put it out to the private sector to do the other 878 spaces that remain, to work with local municipalities. But the modality of doing it, right, we can make sure that we get this right. And how does this link back to what we talk about on the international stage? The information we collect must be local information. We cannot run the country from satellites and machine learning and AI that are generated by other countries. The data and the authoritative data of this country is our data. And yeah, okay, so I'm not going to go on to that. So SPLUMA being amended, the Planning Professions Act being amended, please participate. There's going to be a round of consultations. It ends in August, and both those processes we will take into the parliamentary process in the fourth quarter of this year, so that we will start amending SPLUMA, and we will amend the Planning Professions Act. And yes, we are going to make sure that the Planning Professions Act has the legitimacy and the rights that a planning professional has. And other people won't be able to do work that planners should be doing. So it's not about job reservation. It's about doing the work that you're qualified to do, right? And if you want to, another profession, register with SACPlan and become a registered planner. We don't have a problem. If you can show enough experience in any discipline and you can register, then register and you can do the work. All right. I just want to wrap up because I can go on more than a professor. So just in terms of land use management schemes, we've got 185 municipalities that are compliant at the moment, 26 are under review, and 2 are being supported by the department. Spatial development frameworks, we've got 51% of the municipalities are compliant at the moment, 48 are under review, and 1% have outdated frameworks. There's work out there, people. The department does support municipalities to get their land use schemes in place, to get their SDFs in place. We support on a range of things. So if there's planners out there from municipalities, put your requests in. Be sure that you don't have the money. Be sure that your province supports your application. And we will then look at the merits. Obviously, there's always challenges with everything. Coordination amongst government departments is a challenge, but that's your job as a planner. Bring people to the table, so you need those skills. Engaging traditional leaders, it has been a challenge. But I think if we all work together and we engage all the traditional leaders, there is a way forward on this. Resource constraints, we have many constraints. So especially on accessing data. In municipalities, access to computers, etc. Is Timmy here? No. Limpopo. So we're running a pilot. We want to see if we can support local municipalities with the necessary tools for better planning. And we're going to get there. We're going to roll out more things this year. So despite all these challenges, there's huge opportunities in the country. There's opportunities for growth, technological advancement, and there's also a lot of work that you as planners can do around efficiency. So I'm going to thank you for listening. I don't know if this is going to, by any chance, work if I plug this in. I'm not going to do it. I'll send it to the council. They can put it on the website. It'll take time. But I just want to say, well done to those award winners. You keep on doing what you're doing. Keep innovating. Keep reading. Alvin Toffley's got that saying. You must, in the 21st century, you need to look at learning, unlearning, and relearning. And that is the important thing. If you go and sit down and say, I'm a planner, then you're in trouble. You need to keep thinking about the places where you can make a difference in. You need to push the boundaries. You need to lead, have a vision, and act with integrity at the end of the day. So in conclusion, I'd like to say, let's build a brighter and better future, and let's build this future on the principles of sustainability, inclusivity, and resilience. Because if we don't do this, right, we're going to be that profession that gets blamed for everything. We get blamed for not making municipalities work. We get blamed for floods, for houses that get destroyed. Integrity is very important, and making sure that you take your rightful place at the head of the table and coordinate around that head. So, to the chairperson of SACPlan, Prof, thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward to participating for the rest of the day. Thanks. Just plug this back for you. Otherwise, I'm going to put this back.
Okay, thank you very much, DDG. You know, I think this was not a very good combination because you guys did take a lot of time. So I should have, we should have separated it. Do you mind just taking a seat here quickly so that we can take some questions, just for discussion? Wango Musa, can you just help me here connect at the back? We can use your laptop. Just to take some few questions, colleagues. I'll take 3 rounds of questions directed to both our colleagues. Anyone who wants to start? Okay, I've noted your hand. Any other person? Okay, you're still thinking? Okay, can we hear from you, please? If you don't mind, you can just tell us briefly who you are. Not the bio, just say this is where you come from, this is who you are, this is where you come from. That's enough. Not a bio, please. Thanks.
Presentation. As you have seen, maybe I was nodding a lot when we were talking about the less than environment as in the rural space. So my question specifically is based on the if there's going to be any.
Oh, sorry, I was told I must give you this.
Thank you. My question was around the implementation of the processes that will be put in place to regulate, let's say, development in the rural spaces. Specifically, here I'm asking about the land acquisition. So as you have said, that the digital space is changing a lot, and we're seeing a lot of electric vehicles that are coming in the space, and those cars will be traveling also through the rural spaces, and therefore it has affected the land acquisition process. So I wanted to understand if there's any plan for to show a process that is set that you can clearly follow in terms of acquisition of land in the rural space. Thank you.
Thanks, Prof. Thanks, TDG, for the presentations. My name is Tuli. I'm a consultant at Zutari. I just had a question, I think it's both for the DG and Prof, around the NSDF. I guess the question really hinges on the NSDF and the issue of land. But I have the privilege of doing the Eastern Seaboard RSDF recently. And one of the major problems within the project was always the question of land. We as planners come up with these lovely, lavish plans, we do the analysis, we identify areas of constraint and all of that. But at the end of the day, we all know that chiefs often get left behind in that planning process. And still within the NSDF, I don't see anywhere where we're actually making provision for how we deal with the land dynamic. And the fact that at the end of the day, a lot of the areas that have been identified in the NSDF are still in the custodianship of chiefs. So how do we move forward in terms of the NSDF, and what is the NSDF saying in terms of how we deal with land that is under the custodianship of chiefs? Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Marale Chauke. I was asked, why am I here? Now let me explain why I'm here. I guess we all know that no sound planning can happen without geospatial data. And if that is a common understanding, my question is maybe to start plan to say that we have GIS working separately. We have the surveyors in their own silo, the planners, separate silo, environmental colleagues also in their own silo. And when we talk about planning, we talk about integrated planning that involves issues of environment, that considers geospatial data, that also considered issues of surveying. Now, to the professional bodies, they are all working separately in isolation. How are you going to help the country to ensure integration, among professionals from these 4 different professional bodies? Thank you.
Okay, I think if there's no burning question, I will. I will take your hand.
Can I pass it to you?
I will let me just take 5. I'll start with 3 now. Then
Okay, thank you. Tsepo Masanganyo from the Mandela Mining Precinct. So my question is to the DDG, I think also to Prof. So I just wanted to ask, because I heard the DDG speaking about like the use of drones. I just wanted to ask, do planners like have the necessary skills to operate those new technologies that you were speaking about? And also to the Prof, coming from an academic institution, are there any plans maybe in the curriculums or from of universities? Are there any plans to maybe look at new skills that can be incorporated into the curriculums to assist with new skills that urban planners can use to operate those new technologies?
okay, I'm gonna check one more hand, then we'll close this round. Then I'm still gonna take another round.
Good morning, colleagues. I'm Lerato Golele from the Department of Human Settlements in Mpumalanga. I'm very impressed with the presentation from both speakers because even the first speaker, the images that he projected in terms of what is happening in Moloto, that's actually my area where I manage the space from the human settlement point of view. And you will be surprised that municipality, all of it is under traditional council. And it's very difficult for us as human settlement to provide housing because there's still that resistance in terms of traditional councils. Actually, I wanted to say that they want you to refer them to councils, not authorities, because they believe that they are, mandated to be councils. But I also want to just acknowledge the fact that the Department of Rural Development is doing a lot in terms of assisting human settlement through state land release processes. And hopefully the drone project and us having to plan with the chiefs, it will assist us. But I'm still a bit worried about the amount of lease agreements, the 30-year lease agreements that the department has issued to the land claimants. Because as much as you can have those plans, the general plans approved, it means that we cannot proclaim the townships. And therefore, my mandate from human settlement is to ensure that we provide security of tenure and that people have some sort of security or some sort of investment. So how is the department going to help human settlement in terms of ensuring that the current 30-year leases that are under your Land Tenants Act and your Land Restitution Act are being sorted so that we can establish more sustainable townships in the country? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof, and thank you, everybody, for those various questions. I was just thinking, I'm not going to answer all these questions. I will try and respond to some. I think I have a reason why I'm saying that, because my real responses may just be different. So I will leave some of the questions to the DDG to respond. I think regarding the NSDF, really, this is what I want to say, and I might not directly respond to you. It is my sense and my assessment analysis that there is a need to fundamentally look at the position of chiefs or chieftaincy at the moment, right all the way from the Constitution to Systems Act, Structures Act, and to SPLUMA, to try and redefine the roles and function of chiefs, because apparently in the post-apartheid era, their positions have been somehow reduced, marginalized, and I'm saying this out of research, assertions that are emerging from research, not something that I'm speculating. I think there is a need to look at, especially now that we're amending SPLUMA, it's a pity that SPLUMA needs to draw from the Constitution and align with the Constitution. However, if we had a way, we need to look at how we position the role of chiefs so that, amongst other things, we can deal with the logjam or the tension we're having at this point in time. That will be my response. And I think everything else will draw from that resolution to deal with all these challenges that have got to do with the modern vis-a-vis customary ward councillor vis-a-vis an induna or a chief, you know, all that sequence, parallel sequence that arise from that. I think we are very lucky, and one cannot overemphasize the role that the department is playing in terms of the geospatial information. Ms. Chauko, it's very, very crucial. I think the challenge is that the creation of institutions in general in South Africa, just look at our departments, COGTA, rural development, environmental, you know, how are we collaborating for a start? Don't you just think when we are developing the RDP houses, especially those large ones, there should be the Department of Trade and Industry there to look at how they create jobs whilst they do they develop those. How do you create so many thousands of houses without employment, without bringing an element of agriculture, urban agriculture? Why are we talking of what integration are we talking about if we're not doing that? That's just and that symptom or sickness is replicated amongst us, the professionals, the councils and associations, as it were. I don't know if this will help a little bit. The CBE, I think there's a representative from CBE. Thank you. There is a presidential and chairpersons forum that is started to have meetings and engagements. And one of the issues that we will be looking at will be to see how we integrate, how we influence policy, legislation, amongst other things, moving towards integration. I have really strong hope for this particular forum. Maybe one last one that pertains to academics, Tsepo. Should I say we're doing nothing? I've been involved in accreditation. Some council has been involved in accreditation of the planning programs around the country, 11 planning schools. And what we have observed is that more or less all planning schools are acquiring new technology. There is at least one drone, one sophisticated printer, you know, those ones that can print buildings, and, you know, just one. And what we've been asking and looking at is, how does planning incorporate these technologies that you are acquiring? There is limitation of resources. I think in future, the department that's doing such great work should actually be interacting with planning programs to actually impart those skills, the geospatial skills. But there are a lot more of other skills. In fact, the skills that were there in the 1960s are back in fashion. Planners, let's join the fashion. Thanks.
All right. So let's deal with the elephant in the room. Land. Land in the country will always be important, emotive, strategic, and possibly for a long time unresolved. We're 30 years into the new democracy. How do you undo 90 years or 100 years or 300 years, right? How do you undo that in 30 years? And that's the challenges we sit with. And I think that's the point of part of the land planning program. It's not the solution to everything. It's about putting a process in place that will identify that EV charging area to say, Chief, you're going to have electric tractors because you're going to have a solar plant there. That's 2050, right? If you go and look at the comic books in the 1960s, by now we would have been flying, having flying cars already. That's what people thought we would be by 2020, right? We're not there yet, but it's coming. It's coming so quickly. You know, where's the new important spaces in cities? The tops of the buildings. This is where the deliveries are going to happen. This is where things will land, right? It's going to be hard to get into that canopy of trees that we're building, you know, that nice pedestrian walkway down there on the ground, the one that has been beautifully designed with planters and water features. How are you going to land your vehicle in that space? So the upper ends start becoming important as we plan. I'm not dismissing the question. Firstly, I think Zutari and the team, MISA, have done excellent work on the Eastern Seaboard, RSDF. We can identify the pockets of land, right? Once they're identified, we need to go negotiate on the terms that are applicable at the time within the current legislations. And that's what I want to say to Human Settlements from Mpumalanga. I mean, since I've been a planner, Bushbuck Ridge has been at the heart of great transformation, but also great concern, because the reason for being there in that space and the expanse of people, I think that thing, Bushbuck Ridge runs from Mbombela all the way up now to Maruleng, right? It's a continuous urban environment, right? And the thing is, if so many people live there, why do they live there? Do they have a future there? You know, and this is the question that we ask traditional leaders. What I'm finding in the Eastern Cape is many young people come to us and say, but I'm bottled out of land now. We've given all these portions of land away. I don't want to be part of this traditional leadership anymore. Just give me a piece of land on the edge of Iduchwa so I can put up a chicken thing there. Because this land I'm bottled out of. So the land gets used up. It's not finite. Or it's not infinite, it's finite land, right? So it will be used up. So either you have to densify or go up. So the land issue, and I'm happy to take my number, 082-928-4123. I'm happy to discuss with anybody. I'm like what Mimi would say, open geospatial. If we're going to talk about land, we can set up those meetings. And I hear the concern about the general plans, you know, is 30 years long enough? People lease all over the world, right? I lease a property. I don't own a property. So what is that? Does it mean I have no rights? No, you have rights. You have rights in terms of the lease. So it's about formalizing those rights in a certain way. But we can have that discussion, and we have the contacts within the department to talk to land tenure. And I mean, the colleagues here from the department will know, as soon as we become aware of the problem, we can try and solve that problem. But if you are unaware, and you feel as the Department of Human Settlements it isn't within your mandate to deal with that problem, and you just keep going without dealing with the problem, the root cause, it just becomes exponential at the end of the day. Mimi, I know why you're here. And it was a tongue-in-cheek joke, and it was specifically for that comment. I think that awareness is geospatial, and that's what a planner is. It's not, you know, it doesn't come from, you know, Esri. You know Esri, they do the GIS systems. Believe me, there's also QGIS. And I've loaded QGIS on my computer, and hey, it runs like a bomb. And I can show you so many data sets that are a 0 rand, right? 0. But people like the fancy things, you know. They like the things that have manuals, and they like the things that are easy to run. But you can run a lot of your work on open geospatial and free data. And I think that's what Mimi says to us. Geospatial binds all these professions together. It's not one or the other, Mimi. And I mean, I think that's the point you're making. And it's Esri says the science of where, and we can just say it helps us become more aware of where we are. On drones, you're in. So we're going to talk to the council. We will arrange 2 flying days for the planners. We will get an airfield, we will discuss the dates, and we will then show you the life cycle from drone to map, from drone to plan. We train in-house. The only reason we do this, we have a corporate license, so anybody sitting here that needs imagery, and if you're in government, you can, I'll send out a link later with a request. You can fill it in and ask us to collect the imagery for you. We've done Nelson Mandela Bay. That's what I was going to show you earlier, but we also have done the tornado area, and what we've done for that is we've done it in a 3D model. So it's busy processing time on the imagery, nearly 10,000 images, about 3 days, up in the cloud somewhere. It'll be put together, and we'll have a detailed 3D image of the KZN disaster. The usefulness of 3D imagery, obviously, is when we start looking at change, but also at measuring quantity. There's a lot more when you get to digital twins that we haven't even started scratching the surface on. But we'll get there, I think, in the near future. So I'm saying that we're happy to share any technology with any of the planners. We're happy to do GIS training days within the department. I think I've got 75 planners. We've got enough Esri licenses, and we can show you how to set yourself up, where to find the data sets as planners, because it's a skill that you're going to need. The drones, I would almost go, Prof, and say, because we have a UASOC, which is an operating certificate, we should have it by the end of the year. We would probably be able to do some negotiations with the council. If you have a drone pilot with a drone, they could probably fly under our SOC for planning work in the future. We don't make profit from it, but we do it in the best interest. The only requirement would be that you would have to share your information geospatially with the rest of the country. So we'll put it onto an ARC server, and that information then becomes accessible to everybody. And you'll start seeing that we've already built the ARC server's on its way, and we're starting to slowly fly as we go to small towns. So these small towns will have imagery, and maybe at the end of the day we can ask somebody to just show you how amazing the imagery is. That, I mean, we all work with aerial photos, right? But when what we're talking about now is 4 centimeters accuracy on the ground. We can get to survey grade to 2.27 centimeters accuracy on the ground, surveyed imagery. And you can literally see the washing hanging on the line. I promise you, you can see it. Just to conclude, I know. But to conclude, I think that you'll never be a complete planner, right? If you aren't willing to listen to other people, because that's the most important skill. You'll go. Planning is almost like a subservient profession. You have to bring people to the table, listen, and then make the best of what everybody puts on the table. So we are here to help. We are here to support the planners in the country. I think over the last year we've even increased the funding to SACPlan to get there, but we've almost doubled what they used to get. So all this is in promotion of a better profession. And we are open at any time. Where's Zona? Oh, she's probably watching her computers that they don't get stolen. But so the NSDF, guys, it's so important. If you are here and you want a presentation or a masterclass on it, pop us a line. I know the information is on the SACPlan website. As we move into our 7th administration, what becomes important is the medium-term development plan of the country. It talks about hadedas. It talks about all kinds of birds, right? Now, my problem with it is it doesn't talk about the NSDF. The NSDF geospatially shows the future of the country. We can talk whatever we want to. It'll show where the money should be spent and where it shouldn't be spent. And within every action area, it'll track change and look at if we are putting things in the right places. So please don't miss that opportunity. If you need presentations, we will make the contact details available of the people that can present per province. We have an office in every single province, a spatial planning. We have a director, a senior manager there. And by the end of the year, you will also be able to get drone technology from that office, right? With pilots from that office to do work in your provinces. Our only requirement is that the data is open, shareable, and available, and reliable. All right, so thank you.
Thank you very much, DDG. I'm tempted to take 3 last questions, burning questions. You must be mindful that the colleagues in front here, for every question you ask, is about 20 minutes answer. So what is standing between us and tea break is your question. So can I just take, and I'm gonna take fresh hand. I see your hand, but you're gonna be my last hand if I don't get my 3 hands. So I'm taking fresh hands. This is a fresh hand. Let's see, anybody else? You might be winning. One more hand, one more new hand. No, that one I saw it. Okay, if we don't have, then we'll take him. One more hand, because this is the last round of questions. If you got a burning question after this, then what do they say? Rest in what? You talk now or? Forever in peace, yeah. Okay, so I've got 2 hands, which is fine. Can I have it? I think let's start here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm Bina Kwaisi from SPLAM, from the department. We're slowly trying to get traditional leadership and their decision makers on the municipal planning tribunals, but they don't participate on municipalities, councils, and so forth. They are ex officio members, and I just wanted to find out from the prof more specifically, how easy would it be to get traditional leaders to become decision makers on municipal councils, as currently they're not decision makers as per the Municipal Structures Act, whereas Pluma is trying to make them decision makers on the municipal planning tribunals. Thanks.
Okay, can I get another question from you? Press, it must turn green.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. It's Fanos again. DDG, thank you. I noted that you said you're not dismissing the question. Perhaps the use of electric vehicles was a bit off or directed more to the future. But the question that I'm asking really is about the current challenges that we are facing. Specifically, I'm currently dealing with renewable energy. And looking at the bid window 7 that was released by the Department of Minerals and Energy, you see that they want to procure 5,000 megawatts of power within South Africa. And if you look at the current existing solar farms and wind turbines, most of them are in either private-owned land or communal property associations, because communal property associations work more like a private company or a private ownership. However, with the proposed 5,000 megawatts of power that will be required, most of this land we are looking in the northwest Limpopo area, where there will be solar farms, and then we are looking at Mpumalanga and KwaZulu-Natal for the wind turbines. Now, the current challenge that we face, also something that I'm facing really at this moment, is acquiring land that is state-owned or that is vested in traditional councils. In Limpopo, you'll find a 2-page document from the department that indicates how you can acquire the land. In the Eastern Cape, you find a half-page document that indicates how you acquire the land. However, throughout the process, there are red tapes that are preventing the signing of the option to lease or the signing of the lease agreement. So my question was, as per the SPLUMA that we see with our local municipalities, it clearly states that you submit your application, 30 days you'll get your response from municipality, you will do your public participation. There's a set process with the SPLUMA when it comes to urban areas and doing urban application. So I'm asking, are there any plans that are in place to have a set process similar to that one of SPLUMA for the acquisition of land that is owned by government and also that is vested in the tribal authority? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Those are our 2 last questions. I think you take one. Can help you. I don't know if I'm allowed to answer because I'm tempted.
Of course you can.
Okay. We've just agreed that I will take the one question and he will respond to your question about the future. If I were to respond to that one, my answer will be too long and she wouldn't be happy. But I'm confident the DDG will handle that one. But I'm just going to try give a shortish answer to your questions. Why traditional authorities? How can you motivate the traditional authorities to take part in councils, right? I think, as I said, there is a need to look at the roles and functions of traditional authorities. I think, obviously, yes, we are amending Spluma now, but perhaps there will be limitations because some of the issues may actually be linked to the Constitution itself. I think one of the fundamental problems that I see and been noted by other scholars, namely Professor Shakwizira and who's the other old professor in the University of Venda? I think she is retired now, but their paper actually speaks about this. It's the fact that we planners, and perhaps all of us, are still looking at development from largely a modernist perspective, particularly when we are approaching rural areas or low-income people. We assume that we are bringing development. We carry a civilizing mission. While some of us are conscious of that and we're trying to actually limit or eliminate that, the tools that we are using and the discourses that are still prevailing still makes us to look or assume that modernizing posture. We do not see all institutions as equal but different. We create hierarchy all the time. I can assure you, if, for example, all of us were to get into a bus and we say we're going to Gurungurungu rural area somewhere, you will hear the conversations just that will be coming through amongst us planners. Would you agree with me? That is the problem that we are having. And I think we need to approach rural areas, to approach areas under chiefs as legitimate institutions and situations, just as they are somewhere in Sandton or Alex. And then we'll start really dealing with issues in rural areas. I appreciate the work that the department is doing, the geospatial mapping, and so on and so forth. Who is mentioning the psychosocial in those rural areas? Who is mapping the ritual spaces in those rural areas? I come from a rural area. I know there are forests. You don't even dare to go there. Am I talking mythology here? Don't pretend you don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, so in this geospatial mapping, do we capture that? How do we do the social audits when we're doing planning? So I think there's a need to actually balance the economic and the social, the procedural and the substantive, the spatial and psychosocial, and we haven't really quite developed the psychosocial humanistic aspects so that we balance and we understand these spaces. The reason why there is resistance is because we are not even opening up to actually acknowledge there are ritual spaces. There are certain people who are traditional healers there. There are people who are traditional authorities. Without the chiefs, the indunas, there are other traditional authorities, repositories of knowledge that are in those areas. And that's why you find that there is resistance when development is being brought about. Siyathola? Thank you very much.
Right, great. Thanks, Prof. You see, he gets me going now. So, again, and understanding that local space, being able to sit with a community, localized data, right? That scary forest. I want to offer you that we fly at least the forest with some LiDAR, and then we can see what's going on in the forest, right? But that's more tongue in cheek, Prof. But the reality is that one day it will sink in with people as we look at land planning for the traditional area. The mandate is to do everything. There's a rural invest program that's been adopted by the Department of Traditional Affairs and the National House of Traditional Leaders, Khoisan leaders, right? It's there. Now the question is again about land. How do you unlock the land for development? Again, we can go into the specifics about Dakalo. You're going to respond to this one now. Remember, Spluma is enshrined also, it looks at constitutional issues. So when it gets to the local level of planning, it happens, the local municipality is in charge of that. The landowner, and you always have to look at, and this is for me the fundamental question here is, who is the landowner? If you're going to negotiate a piece of land with a mine, you go to the mine. If you're going to negotiate with Eskom, you go to Eskom. If you go to the chief, that's fine. But there needs to be a community resolution, right? And you will now say, fine, that resolution may take a long time. And maybe that's where we need to provide a mechanism to fast track. And I'm saying that mechanism is not in place yet. We're working on it as a department. One is through the communal land bill, right? And that's only a bill. It's still got to pass a lot of muster as we go along that route. Spluma won't solve everyone's problems, and I agree with Prof. The problem with Spluma, with traditional leaders, doesn't lie with Spluma. It lies within the other two acts, the Systems Act and the Structures Act, right? That's where the problem lies. So Spluma is seen as that unaccepted tool that was forced upon chiefs to make their lives difficult so that they can't participate. We're trying to use Spluma to get them to participate in a planning tribunal so that we can, and that's the other part that I love about a planning tribunal. A planning tribunal doesn't have to make decisions based on economic benefit to the party. It doesn't. It can make decisions made on the public good. It's one of the things of a municipal planning tribunal. It doesn't have to make the best economic sense when you do something. It's about spatial justice, integration, etc. So again, that becomes important. I think that we can, again, I'm saying every case goes case by case. On Eskom, we know your bigger problem is how do you get your energy back into the distribution network. So obviously you want to be close to a big distribution network to get it in, because otherwise you have to build your own distribution network to that site. And that's why in the previous bids with Eskom, we've helped them look at the land around the power stations that are being decommissioned. So we set up in Mpumalanga, the team there has worked very closely with Eskom. So maybe what you need to, Tuki, put up your hand. There we go. You know this man. You can talk to him about that problem. Right. about your problem, because that's what we do. We help. The only other place where you're going to hit a very good is subdivision of agricultural land. Be very careful. You have to go there and make sure that whatever you're planning in terms of solar panels isn't on highly sensitive agricultural land, because it won't be approved. The country is protecting agricultural land and the subdivision of agricultural land. But what I do see is people get so stuck in their minds to do a certain way that they don't just look on the property next door, because this is the one they have access to. So, you know, every case by case, there isn't just a blanket approval on these things. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I think you can take your seats now. Can we give... Okay, thank you very much, colleagues. I think this was a very exciting but also insightful session, loaded. And again, I think both speakers, they spoke passionately about planning, be from a traditional perspective, be from the tools that we are using. And fascinating ideas are coming from the department as well, and the type of support that they are willing to give to planners. I think that is very profound. I'm sure most of you, did you know that there was something happening in the department where you can benefit? Can I just see by show of hands, how many of you knew that the department is actually supporting planners? How many of you knew here? Because I saw when the DDG was presenting, I look at your face, all of you like, what? Did he just say that? Yeah, he did say that. You heard him correctly. So there are a number of ways that we can work together to collaborate on a number of issues. So I don't want to drag this further, because when we come back, this is getting heated, right? So they've laid down the foundation. When we come back, you don't want to be late, trust me. You don't want to be late. You're just going to grab your coffee, and I do know outside there are some exhibition, pick some few books to read around, and make sure that you are back within 20 minutes, please, because we're behind time. 20 minutes, is that fair enough? So this was going to happen before you go, right? In 20 minutes' time, our team will be out there literally asking you to come back, you know? And we will make sure we start with the professors and the DDG, because they've taken a lot of our time. So they're the ones supposed to be here first, right? Okay, so let's go for a short break, and then please feel free to take some of the books outside there and visit all our stands. I think we've got about 3 stands. So where's 3 stands, am I right, or 4? Yeah, just visit our stand and have tea. 20 minutes time, you must be back. Thank you so much. Eh? Okay, you'll be back 1:45. 1:45. What's it?